Let's talk about the difference between relational trauma versus CPTSD. The word trauma is being used a lot over the last few years. You may have noticed. And what I've seen as a therapist is that people mean very different things when they use terms like relational trauma and complex PTSD. The other day, a client asked me this very question, and I thought it might be helpful to talk with you about it in a video. Trauma and its effects can be confusing. We hear a lot about PTSD, but what about CPTSD and this vague and mysterious thing called relational trauma? Are they the same? Different sides of the same coin? Or are they more like distant cousins? Understanding the difference. Imagine trauma is kind of like a tangled mess of yarn. Relational trauma is the event or events, or the conditions that create that knot. When a relationship is traumatizing, there are often broken bonds, unmet fundamental physical and psychological needs. In close relationships, especially ones that occur early in life, relationship trauma or relational trauma can stem from neglect, from physical or emotional abuse, or even just come from a constant sense of emotional unavailability. Relational trauma comes from relationships that trigger our survival brain. And that's the part of our brain that puts our bodies and our minds into fight, flight, freeze, or submit responses. In essence, relational trauma, it conditions our nervous system by placing us in situations where we feel a repeated felt sense of danger. We feel alone, as if we're struggling in basic survival mode. CPTSD, on the other hand, is kind of like the messy aftermath that is that tangled yarn. It's the collection of symptoms that can develop after prolonged exposure to relational trauma, or it can come from other kinds of trauma too. So think flashbacks, nightmares, emotional dysregulation, dissociation, difficulty trusting other people. There are key differences. One is a difference in experience versus outcome. Relational trauma, it's the what, it's the lived experience. CPTSD is the how, it's the way that that experience has impacted us. Another difference is one of specificity. Relational trauma often stems from relationship issues, while CPTSD can actually have broader origins. For example, I've worked with clients who have CPTSD symptoms that stem from repeated medical trauma, from growing up in high threat environments like a war zone, for example, or from being in multiple life threatening natural disasters and accidents. While you could argue that most of the situations I've just listed have a relational component to them, these clients were not really dealing with the direct aftermath of having an ongoing close relationship with someone who was abusing, neglecting, or betraying them. Here's another difference: universality. Not everyone who experiences relational trauma develops CPTSD, and vice versa. Let's talk about healing the hurt. The good news is that both the effects of relational trauma and CPTSD are treatable. Healing relational trauma involves rebuilding trust, setting healthy boundaries, and learning to nurture supportive relationships. CPTSD usually requires additional specialized support, like working with a trauma specialist in trauma treatment and employing specific trauma informed approaches to psychotherapy. Remember, you're not alone. Millions of men and women grapple with the effects of trauma. Understanding the difference between relational trauma and CPTSD is crucial for finding the right healing path for you. Remember, there is hope. With the right tools, with the right support, you can untangle the mess. You can build a fulfilling life. I have seen it done many times. And importantly, reach out for help. Healing is a journey. It takes your commitment. So be kind to yourself. Take things one step at a time. And remember, you've got this. Other people have done it, and you can too. I hope that this post helps clarify the difference between relational trauma and CPTSD for you. Remember, knowledge is power, and understanding your experiences is the first step towards healing them. If you want to learn more about trauma, I invite you to spend some time with my website. I've posted a wealth of information, particularly about trauma related topics and trauma treatment. It's located at www.michaelgquirke.com, and I welcome you to spend some time there. In closing, please also share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if you liked this video and found it helpful, pass it on. Let somebody know about it. Have a great day.